Welcome back to the Fast Performance Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Cole Thomas. We're entering a new era of the Fast Performance Baseball Podcast. Connor is now at Driveline as this episode airs. We wish him all the best of luck while he's out there, and we hope he learns all that he could possibly learn, and we hope to see him back here very, very soon. In the meantime, you'll have me as the full-time host, and our goal will be to, interview friends of Fast and some pretty relevant people that we think will help you, all of our listeners, manage your careers or just learn new advice. So starting off this new era, we have our good friend Brandon Bailey. He's a free agent pitcher currently. Hopefully we get him to sign pretty soon. Brandon is a good friend of the show. He's full of advice. He's one of the he's a very inspirational guy when you get to listen to him and his story. Hopefully, a guy who's had 3 elbow surgeries in the last 10 years, going back to high school, but a guy who's put up numbers. He's made a major league debut with the Houston Astros during the COVID season. He's been with the A's. He's been with the Cincinnati Reds. He's been with Houston, and he's been was drafted with the Orioles. In the Rule 5 draft, he was taken by Baltimore. He's a fun and phenomenal conversation. We think you guys will get a lot of value out of it. Here he is, Brandon Bailey. Brandon, thanks for coming in and joining us.
I appreciate you having me, Cole.
How's your off season going? Or I guess now you're in a free agency right now. How's that going?
Yeah, things are good. We're starting the mound blending phase here this week, which was exciting. Coming off a deload, feeling really good. Flexor feels great, which is trending in the right direction. Obviously, had surgery November 30th of last year, so we're about getting close to, what would it be now, 5 months, 6 months post-op. So Everything's looking up right now, so really excited.
So let's go all the way start to beginning. For guys who maybe don't know who Brandon is, and I don't think many people that follow me or follow anybody that goes to Fest doesn't know who you are, but give us kind of like your background.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I'll just start in high school because that's where things start to become a little bit relevant. But, I went to Broomfield High School, grew up in Broomfield, Westminster area my whole life. Was a 3-year starter on varsity. Really kind of came into my own my junior year. That's when we started throwing like mid 90s, which was really cool to see. But back then didn't have like a lot of the resources and knowledge that players today have in high school. Was just a guy that constantly wanted to throw hard, didn't know what a recovery day was. Day.
We've all been there.
Yeah, and just wanted to throw hard all the time. Had my first Tommy John surgery actually after my junior year. We won the state championship in 2012, which was really cool. But looking back on it now, it's one of those things where I probably should have taken a break post high school season before I started moving back into the travel ball circuit and all that. But just kind of kept pitching, and wear and tear on the elbow kind of just eventually just kind of blew out. And after that season, obviously your first Tommy John at 17 years old, that's really tough.
Oh yeah.
Went through the rehab process all of my senior year. Wasn't able to pitch my senior year at Broomfield High School, but I hit, which was fun to just at least still be a part of the team. Was lucky enough that Gonzaga University, the school that I had committed to, they still honored my scholarship. Went up to Gonzaga, was a 3-year starter for the Bulldogs. Had a great career there. Really enjoyed my time up in Spokane. Drafted in the 6th round by the Oakland A's in the 2016 draft, I think it was now. Was with Oakland for a year and a half. Got traded after the 2017 season for Ramon Laureano, the center fielder for the Oakland A's, and was traded to the Houston Astros. Which was probably the best possible thing that could have happened to me in my career. I didn't really realize it at the time, the amount of exposure that I was going to get in terms of, just player development topics, whether the Edgertronic cameras, Rapsodo, TrackMan Portable, just, and the knowledge that came from the coaching staff that they put together from high A all the way to the big leagues. I just learned so much and got improved dramatically as a player during my time in the minor league system for the Astros. And came to my 40-man protection time. I think it was the fall of 2019.
Yeah, that was about your 5th year in? Or?
Yeah, I want to say 5th year.
This is where you're eligible now for Rule 5.
Exactly. And the Astros decided not to protect me. Got drafted at 2nd overall in the major league portion of the Rule 5 draft to the Baltimore Orioles, which was super cool. Went over there for spring training in 2020 and had a good spring, but that was the COVID situation, and it was super weird how it all played out. Like, I was pitching well. We were about 2 weeks into spring, and I get called into Mike Elias's office. And it's like, hey, we're going to send you back to Houston. You know, it's just one of those things, like, nothing you did wrong. It's just we've got some veteran pitchers that we need to protect, and combined with we're not even sure if there's going to be a season.
Right.
You know,
that was just a weird time.
Yeah,
to be a lot.
Yeah. Get sent back to Houston, show up like a day later to that in West Palm Beach for spring training, and then everything just got shut down.
Right.
Got stuck in a hotel for a couple of days, and then they were like sending us all home, go home, and obviously COVID, weird situation, trying to like stay ready to play, but not even sure if we're gonna play.
Right.
Just a whole weird thing.
But then you can't get anywhere to do anything to stay prepared.
Exactly.
Gyms are closed. Training facilities are all.
Yeah.
You can't do anything.
So I literally was doing like the makeshift home workouts with any sort of workout equipment I could muster up from my own house. Just throwing outside at a park. Found a high school kid to throw with, I got super lucky in that regard. And then got the call that I was going to be on the 60-man invitation only thing for spring training 2.0. Can you be down in Houston in 2 days? I was like, well, it sounds like I don't really have a choice.
Those are always my favorite when pro guys come in, and just that whole like turnaround. Like, I don't know when I'm supposed to be down there, because we had it was Grant Richardson, who's a guy who's been on our podcast before. He plays for the Yankees, and he was in single A last year, and I think he's maybe on the roster for double A. I'm not totally sure right now. But that's that, and you've been in that position where, all right, I'm kind of just waiting on a call. I don't know when I'm supposed to be. I'm just kind of like, you're kind of just going through the motions, like making sure I'm ready. But obviously in a COVID situation where like, hey, like, we're going to do the season. Can you be down in Houston in 2 days coming from Colorado? It was like, that's a hell of a turnaround, dude.
Yeah, no, it really was. And, obviously threw all my shit in the truck. Right. I don't know if I could cuss on this podcast.
Go for it.
I'm sorry. Threw all my stuff in the truck, got down there, and it was a really weird situation because originally what they were doing is they had about 30 guys that were on the minor league side at the University of Houston practicing and training, and it was more so for like the players that were going to act as the reserves in case something happened with the 40-man roster and they need to add somebody, or just prospects
that tested positive guys, or injury guys,
or prospects that they just wanted to make sure we're getting some sort of development process in. And what happened was a lot of like the veterans in the bullpen for the Astros got hurt during that on-ramp of that spring training 2.0, and there was some, roster opportunities that arose kind of out of nowhere. And, I'm not even remotely in my brain thinking I have any chance of making the team. I'm just there. It's like, I'm
extra development.
Yeah, I'm just throwing bullpens. I'm just getting my live ABs against these guys. It's cool. You get to see Minute Maid Park. You're getting to pitch against, Yuli Gurriel and Kyle Tucker and Yordan Alvarez, and just do some
live ABs.
Yeah, George Springer, and doing, in a big league stadium.
Right.
Like, this is really cool.
With nobody in it.
Exactly. But, Dusty Baker's there evaluating it. And it's like, again, I think me being so naive to the fact that I actually had an opportunity to make the team helped me, because I didn't put any pressure on myself. I was just like, I have nothing to lose right now. I'm just out here enjoying this experience. I'm getting to pitch in a big league ballpark. Well, coincidentally, I see a tweet after my last live session before the spring training 2.0 ends. It's like, Brandon Bailey's in the running for a bullpen spot. I'm like, nah, it can't be right. I was like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. And the next day, I get a call at like 6:30 in the morning from Bill Murphy, who's the bullpen coach now for the Astros, but at the time, I think was the minor league pitching coordinator. Okay. He's like, hey, I need you to be at Minute Maid in like an hour. Can you get here? And I was like, yeah. I was like,
what? And you were at the University of Houston?
Yeah, I was at the.
How far is that? And like,
it's like 10-15 minutes from the stadium.
COVID, like there was nobody on the room.
Yeah,
anyway.
no, but it was just random.
Yeah.
I was like, why are you calling me at 6:30 in the morning, Bill? I was like, I'm trying to sleep.
Yeah.
And we don't have practice today. And he's like, I just need you to come down here. Strommy, the pitching coach, Brent Strom, he wants to talk to you about your changeup, your tipping pitches. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And get down there. It was just really weird. Me and Anoli Paredes were down there together, and he got the similar call, like, what's going on? Like, he was like, yeah, I don't know why we're here. And I was like, oh, Strommy just wants to talk to me about I'm tipping my changeup or something like that. And he's like, oh, okay. And then we're still waiting around, and Strommy is like in the outfield talking to some of the other guys that are already on the team. And I was like, what? This is kind of frustrating. I was like, I'm standing here. It's been like 30 minutes. It's like, it's, Saturday. I was supposed to be an off day for me. Like, I'm tired. Like, I kind of want to go back to sleep. Yeah. Whatever. And then what happened? Strommy was like, hey, you got to go into the clubhouse. Dusty wants to talk to you. And I was like, Dusty? I was like, why does
you want to talk to me?
Yeah, I was like, what? I thought you were here to talk. He was like, yeah, I'll talk to you about your changeup in a minute, but you need to go talk to Dusty. And I was like, okay, this is weird. I was like, am I getting cut? Like, what is happening right now? And I get in there, and I walk in with Blake Taylor, who is a lefty relief pitcher for us as well. And Blake goes in first, and I forget who the bench coach was at the time. And he's like, you wait here. Yeah. And Blake comes in. Comes out of the office, and he's bawling. I'm like, oh man, like I was like, what's going on? And then the bench coach is like, congratulations, man, like you're in the shoot. I was like, emotions. And I was like, there's no way this is about to happen. And I walk in there, I sit down, and it's James Click and Dusty Baker, right? And they're just like, hey man, like we just want you to know you made the team. And I'm just like, wait, what? And they're like, you made the team. I was like, are you serious? And Dusty's like, yeah. And he's like, you really looked good this spring, and this summer, whatever you want to call it. He was like, and your hard work, you were ready to go. And I just broke down in that moment in time. I was just like, this is, just so the emotions like just hit me. It feels like
that's not a way you pictured it, right?
No,
you're like what's like in the storybook and the movies where you get the phone call. Right?
Exactly.
Not just randomly like, hey, come to the stadium.
Yeah, exactly. And, and they were just like, you really looked good. And obviously did your work while we were shut down, and you're prepared and you're ready to go. And there's some injuries on the roster, like take advantage of this, like you did great, right? And so then immediately I go outside, and I just calling my dad, my mom, and of course they're not answering. It's just typically how it goes. It's like the biggest news of my entire life. I really need you guys.
I was like, look at the goddamn phone.
Exactly. And luckily for me, after like the 5th phone call trying to get my mom, she answers, and I was like, you're not going to believe this. She's just like, what's wrong? Like expecting something bad, or like I've got COVID or something. I was like, I made the team. And that was just one of the greatest moments of my life, being able to share that with my mom. And then made my major league debut a few days later.
In front of nobody.
In front of nobody. But hey, it counts. I'll take it.
Mom,
and
they got to watch on TV at least.
Yeah, exactly. And was with the team for about a month, and got sent down. Some of the guys, veteran guys, got healthy. Yeah, and then just was on the reserve squad for the rest of the year. But then traded to Cincinnati after that offseason, and then had my second Tommy John in February of 2021. Rehabbed all of 21 and early 2022. Back from that, and then right as I was built up, ready to leave to catch up with the AAA team in Louisville, I get a call saying, hey, I need you to come in again to spring training complex. And I was like, oh, okay, what's going on? I thought I was about to leave. And they're like, well, we've had Hunter Green went down, Lodolo's hurt. I forget, I think they traded Malley right around the same time. So like the starting rotation was just decimated. Exactly. And I'd been a starter
for classic Cincinnati Reds things.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd been a starter all of college, all of high school, and even all of my minor league career. I was only a relief pitcher because I'm of my debut with Houston. So they were like, we need to build you up. Like, we want you to start. And I was like, okay, how are we going to do this? Like, I feel like there's not a lot of time. I feel like we're kind of working on a time constraint here. And then I've only thrown like 30 pitches in like 2 innings max in this rehab progression, and put a plan together. Unfortunately, like my first outing of going 3+, I've strained my flexor. MRIs came back negative, but they wanted to shut it down and get a PRP injection. So I do that, and basically lose out on all of 2022. So that's 2 seasons now. We haven't pitched, plus the COVID year before that. And so my agent calls me up. He's like, "Hey, I think it might be a good idea to like explore winter ball options. You know, you haven't pitched a lot. Like you're coming off this injury. I think it'd be a good idea." So I fly down to the Dominican Republic to play for Escondido, and they had me throw in the minor league game first, just to kind of get my feet wet and get acclimated to the Dominican. Yeah. And in my first inning there, the flexor tears. So, you know, you're just like coming off of 2.
You kind of just send it just like,
what do I need to do? Why is this happening to me? I don't know what's going on. Get the surgery. Contract expires with the Cincinnati Reds. Free agent. Obviously, 3 elbow surgeries in 10 years. I'm at a point where this is kind of like my last straw, really, of trying to get back. And I'm at a point where I just feel like I need to do this for myself, because I don't want to look back at 20 years from now and wonder if I would have just pushed through, if I would have just tried one more time. Could I have at least gotten back to being healthy, pitching in a game? And that at any level, whether that's AA, AAA, big leagues, does not matter. I just want to prove to myself and feel that feeling again of taking the mound and there being fans in the stands, you know, because it's been so long. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Doing this completely on my own, in terms of like putting a throwing program together. I've been lucky enough to work with some really great-minded pitchers. I won't mention their names. I just don't know if they want me to mention them or not. That have really helped me in terms of like making some mechanical adjustments. And then lucky enough to work at some great facilities like close to the public in Arizona. And then obviously here at FAST, been lucky enough to have some really great relationships and people that are willing to help me out. And then, just lifting weights and trying to get back. And we'll see here in about a month or 2 where we're going to be. The goal is to hopefully touch 90 by mid to late May, and then hopefully throw to teams come the end of June. Try and put some sort of scout day together and see what happens right around the All-Star break.
That's great. I mean, your story is, I've always enjoyed your story since I've gotten to know you, right? So, like when you first came into when we were in the when we were back at Beacon, the big facility, right? Yeah. I just remember when Jason comes over to, I think it was me and Peter and all the guys that are still kind of here. They just go, Brandon's going to come in. And wait, I had no clue who you were, and which is funny to me because this is what Connor and I talked about this in the past, where, you know, back when you and I were in high school, it felt like very insular. Like you only kind of knew what was going on inside your district, right? Like you're only a year younger than me. You guys won a state championship my senior year. I had no idea who the hell you were. You know, I went and did some research on you, find some things I never knew. And like you struck out 107 batters your junior year.
So that number is not even right. I think the number was 116.
Yeah, well, because Wikipedia says 107, and then Max Prep says 112 at like 75 innings.
It's one of those things where
I said that's fucking insane.
Like it was a good season.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you're kind of very, I don't know, like unassuming, right? You're just a pretty relaxed, chill guy. But you know, I want to like get people who listen to the show like see it like almost kind of inspiration, because you are just an inspirational story where you're not what most people would say is projectable as a pitcher, right? You're
not at all.
You're more on the smaller side, but now you've gone through 3 elbow surgeries, and it's just like, what keeps you going to keep doing these things, and like what has pushed you to keep pursuing it, and what got you to want to pursue professional baseball?
I think I want to attack that from a few different angles.
Go for it.
The first one being looking back on my life growing up. Like some of my first memories were up in Lafayette with my dad, and I'm like 3 years old, you know, and he's just tossing me the ball, and I'm up, and he's like, okay, who's hitting? And I'm like, trying to do the Coors Field announcer, like Dante Bichette, you know. I'm just imagining myself just playing in a big league stadium, and like 3 years old, just fell in love with the game. And like I was born in '94, so right after the Rockies kind of came to. I think they moved into Coors in '95, so around.
Yeah, because they were 93 and I was born in '93, so I'm like, I've been with them my entire life.
Exactly. And so I literally, right when I was able to start like making memorable like memories in my head was when the aura of the Colorado Rockies and the excitement of it all, just this new team in a big city that has just been desperate for something outside of the Nuggets and the Broncos. They want baseball. And I grew up going to Coors Field, and I just remember my dad was like, at 3 years old, he was like, I could literally just sit there with you for 9 innings and you wouldn't say a word and you just take in the game. Yeah. And I truly fell in love with it. Like, you know, it's like kind of like Moneyball. How can you not be romantic about baseball? Just the sounds and the smells and just the players, and like Andres Galarraga, Dante Bichette, and Walt Weiss, and, you know, just all of these great players that play for the Rockies. And my dad always joked, he was like, yeah, I never had to be that dad that would take you up that left field line to go play at the playground, right, and go see Dinger. He was like, you were just locked into the game. So that's the first reason, is like, I feel like I have to pursue this through, because that 3-year-old that fell in love with the game, like, I owe it to him to keep going, because I love it so much. It's been my whole life, my one true love. And the second thing would be, now that I proved to myself I was good enough to make it to the very top level and to play for a World Series caliber organization, you know, like the starting lineup, my first game, looking behind me, I was like, what am I doing out here right now? Like, this is not like, you know, I got Bregman over there. Yeah, and so it was Correa and Altuve behind. Yeah, it was Bregman at third, Correa at short, Altuve's at second, Gurriel's at first. Right. Josh Reddick's in right, Springer's in center, and Brantley's in left, and Maldonado's behind the dish. Maldonado, yeah. And I think, who was it that started that? I think McCullers started that thing. And my first game, actually, in the pen, Verlander started, and I was like, why am I out here? Yeah. You know, I'm just this kid. I don't belong here. No, I mean, exactly. I'm just this kid that from Broomfield, Colorado, right, that, you know, like you said, 5'0", non-projectable, went to a small Division I school, you know, just card stacked against me, and somehow I wound up on the big league mound, and I'm facing the Seattle Mariners. Right. You know, so proving to myself that I was good enough to play for a team like that, you know, I feel like I have to at least try, because even if it was for 9 innings and a cup of coffee, I knew I could do it. Yeah. So I want to. The competitor in me is like, can I get back? I don't really know, but let's find out, kind of thing. And then the third thing being, my dream post-playing career is to become a coach. I feel like that is honestly my true calling outside of being a player, is I want to impact future generations of baseball players and try to help them, one, stay injury-free, because being me going through what I've had to go through, I hope no athlete has to experience that, because it's horrible, especially at 17 years old, having a major surgery. And then, you know, all of these surgeries that have followed, you know, I want to do everything I possibly can to help baseball pitchers, especially, avoid throwing injuries. So through this process, I feel like it's just an opportunity for me to learn and absorb as much knowledge as I can about whether it's technology like Driveline Pulse, or, you know, using Pocket Radar, TrackMan Portable, like all of these different player development tools. How can they assist me in my road to recovery? And how can I help apply that into like future generations of athletes? Like, when it's my job to be the coach and not the guy throwing the ball, how can I use this tech and all of these different resources and tools that I've used in my playing career to help these athletes like stay on the field and also improve at their game? So I think it's 3 different factors as to why I'm still trying to chug along.
Yeah. Something I want to touch on with you is, and I feel this is something that all athletes can listen to and they can hopefully take some lessons away from, and it goes into your like injury prevention and everything that you do. Is your process is meticulous as hell. And I just can you walk through for listeners, like, what, like, your average day when you walk in here right now, or when you're down in Arizona, like, when you come in every day, what do you do?
Well, honestly, I'll take it a step further, because it starts from the moment I wake up. Right. So the very first thing that I do when I wake up is I weigh myself, because I just want to have that kind of insight. I know when I'm feeling my best on the mound, I'm right around 200, 205 pounds. I think I'm at 209 right now, and post-surgery, I was like 225. So I've lost.
That's the one you're just like sitting around, like not doing anything.
Exactly. I can't work out. Like the doctor's like,
all you have to do is just eat.
Exactly. It's like, just try to get your range of motion back in your elbow.
Yeah.
So I've lost 16 pounds, need about 9 more to go. So I weigh myself, and I immediately try to go outside and get some direct sunlight into my eyes just to keep my circadian rhythm on point, and walk my dog so I get a little bit of fasted cardio, and get home. And I immediately have breakfast, and get all my drinks and supplements ready for training for the day. Purposely delayed having caffeine till about an hour after I've woke up. Yeah. Just so that way, again, my body is fully like.
Yeah. That's one thing I've adopted so much these days is like, especially now that it's getting warmer finally. Get outside. And
vitamin D is crucial.
Oh, yeah.
It's so essential.
I'm so much better. Like I used to just, chug like an energy drink like right when I wake up. And now I'm like, I usually wake up like 2 hours after I wake up.
Yeah.
As well as but anyway, keep going.
Yeah. So obviously like making sure that I have my caffeine 12 hours before I go to bed, but also giving that 1 to 2 hour delay after waking up. So once I'm done with that, then I'll, start to make sure I got everything ready to go for the day in terms of like my meals for lunch and dinner, and then make sure I'm properly hydrated. So that's one thing I forgot too. When I wake up, I weigh myself, but then I immediately drink 16 ounces of water. So then once all that's done, head over to the facility, like you said, and that's when the real work starts. I make sure that I do my whole mobility flow. I've got my active release therapy, soft tissue work, and all that kind of prep stuff immediately. And as you get older, you realize like how much that is necessary. We don't recover and our bodies don't bounce back the way we did when we were like 18.
I can't, like, for people who don't know, like haven't seen, like your bag is full of just torture devices. Like you got, it's like you just like, it's like Mary Poppins and like you're just pulling shit. I'm like, I don't even know how that thing fits in there. you just like grind away, especially your forearm. You're very particular with that, with obvious reasons. Yeah, but it's just funny because you just have like this bag of this treasure trove of like mobility activators, like soft tissue activators. It's just like, oh my god. But that's what something for you need to make sure you do. It makes you help you feel good.
And it's also just something from a subjective standpoint too, just like having that peace of mind and knowing that I did all my prep work. That just gives me the confidence that once it's time to start throwing, it's like, hey, I did everything to make sure my body is fully activated and ready to throw. So once I do all of the soft tissue stuff and all of the mobility flow, then it's time for the active warm-up to try and get a little bit of a sweat going, get the heart rate up. After the active warm-up, we've got like the arm prep stuff, so like J-bands, shoulder tube, some medicine ball work, just to kind of be like a primer to get the body and the arm ready for the stress and the load that it's going to take on during throwing. Then we set up pocket radar. We put on driveline pulse, so that way I've got those two forms of tech tracking the amount of throws that I'm making, and I'm staying within the effort level that I want in that range for whatever the throwing day prescribes. So then after that, then we do all our plyo care routine. Once we're done with the plyo care routine, then we go into the weighted ball stuff, so that way I can start blending those mechanical changes I'm working on with the plyo care stuff with the leather ball in my hand. Once that's all done, then it's time to long toss, or if it's a recovery day, just light throwing. And then now that I'm on a mound blend day, once I'm done with my long toss, I'll finish it up with about 10 to 15 throws off a mound. Done with that, full arm care circuit. Once that's over, get a little bit of a snack, rehydrate, give myself 10 minutes to just kind of decompress from that work that I just did, and then start priming my body to get ready for the workout that I have for that day. And then once that's over, go home, eat lunch, rehydrate again, and immediately start modalities. So whether that's my at-home sauna, the ice bath that I bought on Amazon for like $100, Normatec, cupping, you name it, whatever it is. And then from there, blue light glasses immediately starting around 3:00 in the evening until I go to bed. I have my wind down right around 7:00 at night because I know I want to be in bed no later than 8:30. Lights out by 9. Cherry Bundy juice 2 hours before bed.
Great stuff.
Anti-inflammatories, omega 3s, magnesium, like I could go on and on about supplementation and the reasons why I do it. And then, yeah, I had something I need to get better at, but limiting screen time before bed, limiting TV. It's so hard just because it's like the one thing we just want to do is like, as an athlete, you're like so meticulous about your entire day. It's just, you want to do something for you. I want to watch a show. I want to just scroll TikTok.
If you're in bed by 8:30, how could you watch the Nuggets last night?
I didn't. I watched like the first quarter, and then I was like, oh my gosh, it's 9 o'clock. I need to go to bed. I was like joking to my dad. I was like, I can't watch the Nuggets. I can't watch the Abs. It's like, why are they starting these games at 8:30 o'clock at night? Like, don't they? I need to go to bed.
Yeah, you know my schedule.
Exactly. And it's like, well, normal people go to bed around 11 o'clock midnight. Right. It's like not 9. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just kind of a snippet. Obviously, I'm sure I forgot stuff, but that's typically what a day looks like for me.
So you touched on what are mechanical changes you're working on currently?
Yeah. So I grew up in an era where, we got to drive off the back leg. We've really got to push off of that back leg and take our pelvis and like drive our hips towards the catcher.
Right.
I embrace that to the extreme. I would get into early hip extension of the back leg. Once the foot, like I hit foot plant, I basically have nothing to rotate the pelvis. So the only way I'm going to be able to deliver the ball on time is, okay, we have to rotate the torso and the arm simultaneously. No kinematic sequencing of any kind. And obviously when you do that, it's like you're moving through water and the elbow is taking so much of that load. So it's really no surprise that I've had elbow problems in the past. I've just been able to throw hard simply because I have a freakishly fast arm, plain and simple. Which, and again,
and you're crazy strong.
That helps too. That we are just kind of blessed with like really good strength. So trying to just completely remap my lower half mechanics specifically. Again, working with a big league pitcher, I'm not going to mention his name, that is very, very proactive in his own development, very, very knowledgeable, probably the most knowledgeable pitcher on the planet right now. And just in terms of, I'm sure
the people who listen to this can
probably figure out who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And if not, well,
do some research.
Exactly. So just working with him and kind of like completely remapping my plyo care drills too. Obviously being a Driveline former employee and then working there and training there, that obviously those drills are extremely effective for a lot of other guys, but for me specifically, when I was wanting to attack, this guy kind of in his bag of knowledge kind of helped me put me on the proper path of, hey, we've got to get you to where your back leg, it's not jumping into hip extension, but rather like truly like rotating in like that back knee and like back hip turning over to get the pelvis in a proper spot to when it's time to block. It's now we're sequencing all of that energy up the chain efficiently. Pelvis rotates first, torso stays neutral, and that's what creates hip shoulder separation, not counter rotating the torso. Because when you counter rotate your torso, well, what has to happen? The pelvis has to close off too. So when that happens, you have no choice, but they have to rotate together. And when that happens, the elbow's taking all of that load. So just basically really, really hounding my understanding of breaking the habit of counter rotating the trunk and just keeping it neutral. The arm is literally doing nothing. And so it's not necessarily emphasizing my arm action and trying to change how my arm is moving as I bring it up into shoulder external rotation, but rather focusing on my lower half, getting that to sequence properly. And then everything else just kind of falls into place. And it sounds crazy, but at least for me and where I currently am in my career, that's all it took. And the numbers really, in terms of like the pulse data and the radar gun, it's really lining up. So just really trying to remap my lower half mechanics and then just trying to do less with my upper half and just eliminate any unnecessary movements that don't contribute to the throw.
Right.
So it's simplifying the windup, simplifying where my starting position on the stretch, and just really emphasizing just rotate my pelvis and get myself in a good position to block. And so far it's been working phenomenally.
Yeah, something I try to tell guys all the time when we work on some specific drills, especially with the Driveline stuff, is like the way I analogize is like I want like their bodies to basically be like the space shuttle. For most kids, like you and I grew up with the space shuttle. Most kids now like probably like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. What's a space shuttle?
If it's not SpaceX, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly.
And but the way I always imagined it was like, always think to yourself that basically your arm is the shuttle, right, on liftoff, where it basically gets all the credit, but does like 10 to 15% of the work.
Yeah.
And utilize your body is the orange rocket and the two boosters. Like that's where all the power comes from. Right. But like, and that's what you're saying is you're trying to take all that stress off your arm, where your arm's not doing nearly as much work because your body's done basically all of it.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And it's just simply trying to truly start from the ground up. You know, I know that there's tons of coaches and they have all these buzzwords like, you know, it's like, you know, just really like sitting into the back leg and like, you know, we really got to like drive off of that back leg, and that's where all your power comes from. You got to load your legs and like all this stuff. It's like, okay, true, within context, like the proper context. We have to make sure that we're like, there's a chain of events that need to happen in a specific chronological order. And if something gets like thrown out of that, then you could have problems. So I totally agree in the sense of like doing less with my upper half and especially my arm, and literally just trying to keep my torso and my arm in a neutral state and just really emphasizing what's going on with my legs. And then just the rest of it's kind of coming to as energy transfers up the chain and into the ball. Obviously, it helps that I have a really fast arm that obviously impacts velocity immensely. But for me, is it's like, okay, how can I let my arm move fast while the elbow is not taking nearly as much of the load? And okay, it starts with my lower half, is specifically the drive leg.
Right. How do you, so from going back to your story a little bit, and this is something I try to tell guys all the time, is, you know, you can, like, for me as a coach, is like, I'm going to guide you down the right path, hopefully, right? But like, there's got to be a little bit of a, you know, for you as the athlete, you've got to kind of take control of this. You've been with 4 organizations in your career now. All of them, I'm assuming, and then you and I've talked off air about that, where, you know, what the Reds maybe told you is different than what the Astros told you, is different from the Orioles, different from the, you know, A's. Like, what are those contrasting styles between those 4 organizations? And like, what have you taken from all those organizations? Or maybe not, like you learn something like, go, never ever apply that. But like, you utilizing all that information to create Brandon and like how you do things differently from maybe other guys. Like you said, you know, Driveline teaches one thing, but that just doesn't work for you, right? And like, you've taken vested interest and you've taken kind of the reins in your own career. What can you say about like maybe some like a college guy or a high school guy should learn from that, having gone through all these systems? For sure. And like, you just say, like, all right, screw this, I'm just going to kind of do what works for me.
So first of all, I just want, for all the listeners out there, Driveline 100% works for me. I don't want to say that it doesn't. Well, I just meant there's some specific drills that they might prescribe for my mechanical deficiencies that didn't necessarily get me
to click.
Exactly. You know, whether it was just like me being an idiot and just couldn't figure it out and not being an athlete, or just simply it just was one of those things where these other drills that I was given just seemed to help me get to that point, which is totally fine. You know, I think anybody up there at Driveline would 100% attest to, it doesn't matter necessarily how you get to the end goal. It's just simply getting there. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't be where I am today without Connor Bodie and Driveline Baseball. I'll just say it. Right.
Shout out those guys.
Shout out Driveline Baseball. But and to answer your question, and I also can't go into details about the whether it's Oakland, Baltimore, Cincinnati, or Houston, what I learned during those times, but because obviously being a free agent, I don't want to say something that it's like gonna hinder my ability to get
whatever you can say is like, you know, but I think kind of the main point of the question or leading you on is, you know, taking control of your own career, right?
No,
as opposed to like just having like, okay, coach told me to go do this, or I listen to whatever my coach says or whatever my parents says.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I think the point that I want to say is like a lesson can be learned in almost any situation, right? There's like any person that you interact with, whether it's a coach, private instructor, scout, someone in, you know, player development staff for the professional team, you know, we can learn something from every single person or take something away. But as a young athlete or someone that's kind of going through the college ranks, eventually the older you get and the more you mature, you have to realize that, yes, the coaches and the player development staff are there to help you try to improve at your craft. That's their job. But at the end of the day, it's on you to truly apply what the concepts that they're trying to teach you, the philosophies that they're trying to explain to you. It's truly up to you to try to mold whatever version of yourself, the athlete that you want to be, and picking and choosing what bits and pieces that people are of knowledge that people are giving to you, and taking what you feel like is going to help you get to where you want to be. And I feel like for me, I try to just absorb as much information as I possibly can, especially, in college and the professional ranks where you're working with people that have a lot of experience with coaching and a lot of experience as players during their playing career as well. And just trying to take away bits and pieces that I feel like are going to help me, again, create this idea of the pitcher that I want to become. And I feel like if you can do that as an athlete, you're putting yourself in a great situation to be successful, because you're humble enough to always want to learn more, and understanding that you don't know everything, neither does the coach, but at the same time, understanding that they probably have a lot more experience than you, and just being humble enough to be like, okay, what can I take away from this conversation?
Yeah, the way we've Connor and I've kind of established as one of our ideas behind that is for me as a coach, and for you later down the line as a coach too, it's kind of I can give you the yellow brick road to Oz and all that, but you've got to go walk it at some point.
Absolutely.
So many athletes will come in here in the past and just be like, "Get me to throw 90." Okay, well, how do I do that? I can do that, but there's a bunch of shit you've got to do on your end.
Yeah.
Just me fixing your stupid mechanics or working on your fastball is not going to get you to throw 90 or get exposure or get you these scholarships.
I think one of the biggest things that I see in younger generations of players today is that they don't understand that the work that has to be put in to see the improvements that you're looking for. Everybody wants a quick fix, it seems, nowadays. And the reality of the situation is improving your velocity is not just a cookie cutter, clear cut approach, right? Yeah. There's so many other things that go into it besides improving your mechanics. You could have great mechanics, but if you weigh 150 pounds soaking wet and you have a slow arm,
where have I heard that before? People that listen to the show
are not going to throw hard. You know what I mean? And it's and if you stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning playing video games, getting 5 hours of sleep, and then eating, out at lunchtime at high school off campus and going to Taco Bell, and then you're wondering, well, why am I not seeing the improvements that I want to see? Well, it's because there's so many other contributing factors that go into it. And I just right there, nutrition, sleep, hydration, stress, all of these other things that you really don't think play a big part in it, play a huge, huge role, and especially in the weight room and all so many other areas that I probably am forgetting. But it's not just simply, okay, if I'm moving well on the mound from a mechanical perspective, well, that's it. I'm going to throw 100.
Right.
It's no. Spencer Strider throws 100 because he lifts the freaking house. His mechanics are amazing. He has a super fast arm, and he probably his again, you guys got an inside look at my daily routine. I'm sure his is just meticulous and just as dedicated, and investing in his body, looking at what he's putting in his body, how he's fueling himself, sleep, recovery, so many different things. It's not just simply the 1 hour of technical skill development that I'm putting in at Fast Arm Care on a Tuesday. Right. That's going to be the contributing factor. As much as that would be awesome if it was just simply, I've just got to work on my throwing mechanics and everything's great. And maybe you are that guy. Maybe you are that athlete.
That Tristan McKenzie, or the one outlier.
Exactly. That it's weighs 200 pounds, can lift the house, eats super clean, hydrates, doesn't have a girlfriend or doesn't play video games and just sleeps 10 hours a day and just recovers like an animal. You know what I mean? And, we just got to simply just get you to have a little bit more scap retraction and intent, and you'll be good to go.
Right.
Okay, cool. But how many athletes are there that are out there like that? Very few.
It's one of those like what, everyone sees everything in clips, and I love that everyone's throwing harder and harder. It's like but for me as a coach, I'm like, yes, I love to see this. It's like, well, I want to train guys to do that. But I also feel like there's a little bit of kids will watch that and go, like, they get that false impression that all those people that are doing, like your Spencer Striders or your Hunter Greens or all that, like they're just like overnight successes, having never seen what they did prior to that season or prior to you seeing that clip.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you said, like Strider's probably just as meticulous in his routine as you are.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just like simply,
and like obviously there's millions of dollars at stake.
Yeah, that's like, there obviously there's a little bit of motivation as well. It's like this guy could be making hundreds of millions of dollars potentially in a couple of years. But the point is it's like, there's not just this simple crystal ball that we can all look into, and it's like, I just got to do this, this, and this, and it's all going to be good, And it's truly one of those things that I feel like younger generations and even parents of younger generations, it's like they just want to hear like this clear-cut thing that they have to do. Okay, done, and like I want to see the results.
Right.
And it's just not that simple. And you have to be willing to do more than your peers in order to see the type of results that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. What is when you come in each and every day and having gone through a lot of the valleys that you've gone through, and like what's your mental preparation before games, before workouts, like what's your to get yourself mentally prepared before games? What does that look like?
Well, it's been a while since I've actually gotten the opportunity to pitch in a game. But back when I was healthy and pitching, a lot of mindfulness meditation. Mm-hmm. First things, I try to I used to be the guy that thought I needed to listen to this crazy screamo music and get super amped up and super pumped up. And I realized like that actually had a negative effect in turn, because then it's like I was exhausted by the time I got done throwing my pregame bullpen and the game hasn't even started yet. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, like how do I channel this? How do I get my body ready to go and warm and loose? But then also it's like, all right, I've got tons of energy ready to go out and like compete. So once I figured that out, and that was a maturity thing, right? As 18 to 22-year-old kid, I thought, I got to get myself super amped up, and that worked to a certain extent. But at the same time, the older I got and the more mature that I got, I realized it was like less is more for me pregame. So trying to show up to the ballpark early. I'm old school in that sense. It's like if you're early, you're on time kind of thing. So just that helped eliminate stress right off the bat. It's just like, all right, the earlier I got to the ballpark, the more time I have in case I forget something of my routine, and making sure I'm fueling myself properly the night before and the day of. Making sure that I'm properly hydrated, because I sweat a lot, and I know that about myself, so I need to make sure that I'm fueling myself in terms of electrolytes, because I don't want to cramp up out there on the mound. It's happened to me before, and it's a horrible feeling. It's just, again, back to the drive leg. It's always my back right calf that would just cramp, and right as I'm about to deliver the ball, I'm like, oh, this is okay.
Oh, no.
So I know that about myself, trying to avoid that, making sure I'm getting properly hydrated. Again, very similar to a training day, just emphasizing all of my body prep work, and then mindfulness meditation to just try to put myself in the state of like calmness and stillness, right? It's very, very easy to get amped up, especially in the pro ranks, because there's 5, 10, if you're in the big leagues, 25,000 people that are coming to watch you play. Just the atmosphere in itself alone gets your heart rate up and gets you ready to go. So I knew I didn't need to get myself pumped up, because the moment I stepped out onto the field, I was ready to go. So just simply trying to keep myself as even-keeled and as calm as possible, so I could have that clarity to think very clearly about what I needed to do to get my body and my mind ready to go. And then once I did my mindfulness meditation with the Astros, we'd have a pregame meeting with the pitching coach, catcher, and myself, to obviously go over the scouting report, break down every hitter. If it was the first game of a series, like looking at the previous series that we played them, or if it was we've already played a couple of games, hey, these are what we've seen the previous nights, whatever. And then from there, it's time to go out and start getting ready on the field. So playing long toss, plyout carries before that, and then, getting in the bullpen and understanding that all of those throws aren't like, now when I go back, this is something that I've learned in my time of just having so much free time thinking about it, is like, I made a lot of throws before I even got on a mound for the pregame bullpen. Like, I probably should start like monitoring that just in terms of like the fatigue units, or at least factoring in like 5-minute sessions to like rest in between long toss and then the bullpen and the bullpen to the game. So that's a little bit of a kind of what pregame looks like.
All right, cool. I got one last question for you, and I'll let you go. I know you got to go do all your. You got to go take care of your dog. You got to go eat. As we talked about, you got all your process. We got to get you back on. What is, like, looking back on your career, like through high school, through college? What is a couple pieces of advice that for college guys, high school guys, maybe even youth guys, if they listen to this? Yeah. Like, what's like your biggest thing? Like, maybe like a piece of advice or something you've learned, or something like, I wish I had done that better when I was younger.
Biggest piece of advice right off the top of my head, there's always going to be somebody better.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, it doesn't matter how much your parents pay for you to play on specific travel teams and all this stuff. That doesn't make you any better than the guy that's just simply trying to do it, playing for the high school team because, his parents can't afford this and that. Like, just because you play on these big travel teams, the most humbling thing that I ever experienced in my career was, having every single guy that plays on a Division I baseball team was good. Yeah. In high school, you probably they all got won state championships, all conference, all state, all American, whatever. I got there my very first day, and the coaching staff was like, "Nobody cares what you did in high school. Nobody cares." And there's nothing more true than that once you go to the professional ranks. Yeah. Nobody cares what you did in college because everybody did that stuff, and once you realize, it's like, okay, I'm not the alpha male. I'm not the best player on my college team. I'm not the best player on my pro team. Taking that and actually using it in a positive manner, right. Not backing down and from that challenge and looking at it as an opportunity. It's like, okay, I got to get better. This is an opportunity for me to improve. Like that guy, I want to have his job. I want his spot. I've got to work that much harder to improve my game so that way I can make it as clear cut that I deserve to be out there pitching in this game and not him. You know what I mean? Right. So I think just be humble and understand that there's always going to be somebody better than you, and be willing to put in the work. And that's the biggest piece of advice I can have is truly, if you want to make it to the major leagues, or if your goal is to play Division I baseball, whatever your goal may be, you have to be willing to put in the work. And nothing is going to be handed to you. It doesn't matter how great your mom and dad tell you are, which is obviously they're your biggest support system. That's awesome. That's good. That's very healthy. But at the end of the day, it's like, it all comes down to you. Yeah. How bad do you want it? What are you willing to do to make your dream become a reality? And are you really, truly willing to push yourself that far to try and make it happen?
Right. So it's awesome, dude. That was some fire right there. Your social media's gonna pop off.
I hope so. Yeah. I'm trying to push that a little bit more and get some.
Let's get you some followers. Where can all the good people find you?
So I'm on Instagram, Twitter, mainly TikTok, but at @bbailey_19 for Instagram and Twitter. TikTok, that was already taken, so I don't even know what my TikTok is, but you just
can find him.
Yeah, I'm on there somewhere, but I'm also an open book too. Yeah. I respond to direct messages, especially. I love it when kids reach out. They're like, hey, I'm not sure, I've got this, can you look at this video of me throwing? Or, hey, I'm a short, small pitcher, I'm trying to throw harder, what are some tips and tricks? Or, hey, I'm trying to get recruited in college, how did you go about doing that? I'm an open book.
He's not intimidating.
No, I'm really not, and I'm not also like a big leaguer that's just like gonna not respond. Now, if it's a stupid question, I probably might not respond. Like, hey, can you send me like gear and stuff like that? It's like, that have some feel.
I got some things. I got some cards I'm sending your way. Can you sign them?
Yeah, exactly. That's I got some feel, but yeah, kind of an open book.
Yeah.
Always wanting to help future generations of athletes and players any way that I can.
Yeah,
So
I definitely recommend people follow him. He's got great stuff on there.
I'm trying.
He's doing really well at it. Brandon, thank you so much for joining. It was a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, Cole, I really appreciate you having me here, and you got an awesome facility here, and this whole podcast setup is very, very cool.
Awesome. We appreciate it.
No worries.
A big thank you to Brandon Bailey for joining us today. It was a great conversation. You can find me on social media at Cole Thomas Fast on Instagram and on Twitter. You can follow Fast Performance at Fast Performance CEO on Instagram. You can follow Fast Baseball at Fast Baseball on Instagram and on TikTok. You can go on our website, fastcolorado.com, and we will see you next Tuesday.